were exploring different tech. When I came on board, 40 employees, our tech stack, I think is what they call it, was pretty limited. I remember being in meetings where we were looking at CRMs, we were looking at call recording technology. We were really looking at any tool that could get us ahead. Now, we all know that tools are good. The implementation, the strong implementation of tools is greater. So that was really our focus is, if we're going to invest in a tool, are we going to make sure that our reps, our leaders are enabled to get the most out of it? I'll give you an example. I've got a gym membership. And that gym membership looks good. But if I don't go to the gym, these six-pack abs are all a dream. So it's the same thing of, hey, it sounds great to have a call recording tool, but if we're not using it to coach, we're not using it to have our reps self-analyze, we're not using it with intentionality, with discipline, with consistency, it was all a dream.
You're listening to RevOps Champions, a podcast created for B2B leaders to help you align your people, streamline your processes, trust your data, and leverage technology in order to grow your business. We're your hosts, Brendan Denewell
and Amy Weaver. Larry, you're a professional speaker now. Which is the perfect fit for you. But what made me think of you for this podcast was your years of sales experience. We knew each other in the mid-aughts when I graduated from college, and we were both living in the Triangle area. And we were colleagues at a couple different SaaS companies where you were pounding the phones, doing the hard work, hitting the quotas. And you also then went on to manage and train sales teams. And so that portion of your career is what made me think of you as a RevOps champion. So if you could take us back approximately, 12 years and talk about your early experiences in sales. And like we discussed, I guess it's been a couple of weeks ago now. What were the key elements on those sales teams that helped you scale more efficiently than maybe some teams where you didn't?
That's perfect. And are we recording live right now,
or
yeah. This is just a preview?
This is the recording.
Oh, okay, we're live. I didn't realize that we're on. I love it. So yes, back in the day, I was a sales professional, a sales leader. Now I have the opportunity to serve sales organizations to help them take their game to the next level. So to answer your question, Amy, some of the keys to success, it's vision, making sure that you have a clear understanding of the goal and the team knows where are we going. I think they say teamwork makes the dream work. I definitely believe that. Yeah, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, you better mount up with the team. So let's go ahead and surround ourselves with good teams. And then number 3, hard work. And I mean work. Don't get me singing, but a lot of people talk about hard work, but they're not really working hard. And I'll give you a bonus as well.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah. Loud and clear.
Communication. And it's not just what you say or what others say, but how they say it. And I'll say the key to communication is actually listening. We've all been blessed, for the most part, with 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. My understanding is that we're supposed to listen twice as much as we're supposed to just yap away. So those would be my 3 plus a bonus.
And that would apply to all members of the team versus just leadership. You're saying that every team member can contribute with those qualities?
1,000%. That's all encompassing, universal. And there's more, but those are just the ones that come top of mind for me right now. And what I'm seeing on the market, kind of the pulse. I will throw another one in there. Practice. I'm not Allen Iverson, but we're talking about practice, not the game. So many times I see professionals and even leaders, they're practicing in game situations. No, let's get ahead of it and let's be disciplined. Let's be committed to honing our skills, elevating our skills in a controlled environment, a safe space, so that when the lights, the flashing lights, the spotlights come on, we're ready. It's game time. And I still have the jitters, but I'll give you an example. I speak for a living. I still get nervous. I was nervous hopping on this podcast, but I knew that I was prepared. And that came from you, Amy. It came from you, Brendan, preparing us for this podcast to deliver some value to the listeners.
Absolutely.
Awesome. And I love the way you threw in my favorite African proverb there too. That was, we talk about that a lot. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Very cool.
So another thing that you said stood out to you is this concept of headcount, and how companies that are in a high growth stage are really excited about increasing headcount and adding members to their teams. But what are some of the challenges that growing teams often face during that ramp up period? And maybe even, not to touch on any sore subjects, but maybe what are some mistakes that you've made on your previous sales teams that you learned from doing those periods of time?
I'll give you the perfect example. Pendo, which is a unicorn. They're qualified as a unicorn. Yes. I was employee number 40 there.
Okay.
When I came on board, there were 3 lead generation reps. When I left, we had 22. When I left, we had 200 employees. I think they're touching around 1,000 now. But one of our investors shared that when you hit every 100 people that you add, communication breaks down. From my perspective, when you're adding to the team, it shifts the dynamic. Just think about the family dynamics. When you have 1 kid, it's 2 to 1. When you have 2 kids, you're now playing man to man. It's 2 on 2.
Gosh, I feel that so much.
We're now playing zone.
Yes.
So in a similar facet with a team, a sales team, a revenue generating team, when you start adding folks, the culture starts to shift. It starts to change. And what I found is the organization doesn't dictate culture. It's the people that are in it, the people that are rolling up their sleeves every day. They dictate culture. So that's why it's so important. And I share for organizations to make sure you're crystal clear on your core values and to check yourself before you wreck yourself, to make sure you're living in your core values and you're hiring around those core values. Because especially in sales, I've seen it where you have core values of being honest, being customer centric, which sounds good. Mm-hmm. It looks pretty on the wall, pretty on the stairs, but the people that you hire, they could give a dang about your clients. And that really resonates throughout the sales org, the customer success org, the entire org, that, hey, talk is cheap. As my mom would say, your actions speak so loud, I can't hear what you're saying. So for organizations, I encourage you, what are your actions saying in terms of who you're hiring and how you operate within that? So headcount, it shifts the culture either in a good way, a great way, or survey says, that way, which I've seen it all 3 ways. I've seen it all around.
Yeah. So what was the ending to the story of Pendo with the team that went from 3 to 22?
We hired based on our core values, and they're a unicorn for a reason. Once the economy, I'm not a forecaster, but I kind of am. I'm anxiously awaiting. Once the economy rights itself, I think they have a very bright future ahead with regards to an exit, either IPO or an acquisition. And that came from the foundation that we set. Strong foundation, strong people focus, strong core value focus, being able to build upon that. It's kind of like building a house. You can't start building a house from the 2nd floor. At least I don't know, maybe in today's day with ChatGPT, you can figure out a way, but I think you got to start with the foundation. And it was awesome being a part of that foundation to build and to see them continue to stack on from the work that we did.
Yeah.
Well, now I know they have a marketing operations function now. because some of my former colleagues are in those roles. What did the process look like in terms of technology as you guys were growing headcount like that?
Wow, we were exploring different tech. When I came on board, 40 employees, our tech stack, I think is what they call
Yep.
it, was pretty limited. And I remember being in meetings where we were looking at CRMs, we were looking at call recording technology. We were really looking at any tool that could get us ahead and set us up for success. Now, we all know that tools are good. The implementation, the strong implementation of tools is greater.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really our focus, is if we're going to invest in a tool, are we going to make sure that our reps, our leaders are enabled to get the most out of it? I'll give you an example. I've got a gym membership, and that gym membership looks good. But if I don't go to the gym, these six-pack abs are all a dream. So it's the same thing of, hey,
Sure.
It sounds great to have a call recording tool, but if we're not using it to coach, we're not using it to have our reps self-analyze, we're not using it with intentionality, with discipline, with consistency, it was all a dream.
Sure.
Yeah.
And who would the stakeholders have been involved in those conversations when you guys were, like, the roles?
Yeah. So, I mean, primarily it was our sales leadership. I was in charge of our BDR team. It was our VP of sales, who eventually became our CRO. We had a sales enablement person. What's up, Kristen? If you're listening in, as well as our marketing team, our marketing leadership. So it was really a combination: sales enablement, marketing, as well as customer success. I got to give love to the people that keep smiles on our customers' faces. And then I can't forget the relationship and the bridges that we built with our financial team, our CFO, being able to justify, because sometimes they can get laser focused on the number, the number. Well, yes, that's your job. And let's look at the value associated with that number and really share into the decision to make an investment. And when I think about an investment, it's putting one in and getting more than one out, which always puts a smile on my face and most people's faces.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly your CFOs.
That's right.
Yeah, I would say Brendan and I are increasingly hearing about the CFO being part of this revenue operations conversation. I don't know. I hadn't considered before having them be involved other than from a budget approval standpoint. So I'm curious. Do you remember any of the things beyond the return on an investment from?
Well, from and my memory is not the greatest. As I get older, I know you can't tell because I'm freshly shaven, but as I get older, the memory seems
You got
to
some
go.
gray hairs on your head.
Don't tell nobody else. But we did a great job, and I give it to Jennifer Kalin, our CFO, of really being invested in the business success. And it wasn't just about the numbers, but also the people, the efficiency, and there are hard costs. And then there's sometimes these things called soft costs that you can't exactly quantify, from user efficiency, from a employee engagement, employee happiness perspective. How do you put a dollar amount onto that?
Sure.
But it takes someone who's forward thinking, someone who can think outside the box, I guess they say, outside of the general purview of just the dollars and cents, the P&L, which we had, which was amazing to have an advocate on our side. What I can tell you, what I'm seeing now in coaching sales teams, I don't do any illegal things, but get high. And when I say get high, I mean you want to get higher up the food chain and have those conversations with those stakeholders that really they have control. So sometimes we get not stuck, but we get happy at the manager director level, my encouragement is to scratch away and knock at that door to get in with the VP, the C level. And that's not just the chief revenue officer, but also the CFO, the CEO, if possible, because the higher you get in a sales process, the more likely it is that things are going to go your way from
Sure.
my experience.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Totally agree. And yeah,
Should-
and of course, Larry, you just touched on all the soft costs, and we often talk about that, with our clients and prospective clients when they're looking at doing a CRM implementation, and that is what we call the total cost of ownership, right? TCO. It's because most people, when they're implementing a CRM or tech stack for the first time, they spend a lot of time looking at the cost of the software, but they don't take as much time looking at the total cost, which is what you need to do, and which is what the CFO is doing, right? To figure out what is the ROI, not on the software, but what is the ROI on the total cost of ownership of that software, and how it enables and provides value to the users, the teams that are using it, right?
I love that. The holistic approach. And it takes a forward thinking leader, a forward thinking professional to think outside of the general scope of just the just the cost. But I like how you phrase that, the TCO, total cost of ownership, so vital,
Right.
priceless.
Yeah, exactly. And Amy, this kind of talks to, I think, what you were saying, and we've been hearing this, Larry, over and over again in the last few weeks, speaking to folks for the podcast, and the CFO and the CIO and the CTO, of course, are being mentioned all the time, and it's because when we look back 10 years, the technology and the processes and the data flow was not as cross-functional as it is today, right?
So true.
But so they were all siloed, but because the technology now runs, horizontally through the business, that's why the CFO, the CIO, the CTO, and obviously the CRO, the CM, they all have input, because it impacts every single team across the entire organization. And this has been an evolution that we've seen over the last 5 years, is where before we were only selling to the CMO or the VP of sales. Now we're selling to the entire C-suite, and it actually makes for a far better solution for everybody, because everybody knows what they're doing and why they're doing it, and therefore they can do their part to make it a success.
So
really
true.
Good point. Really good point.
It's that holistic approach throughout the organization. And you made a great call out on the shift for cross-functional alignment. You talked about the silos, and guilty as charged. I've been there before.
Yep.
I can think very vividly when you've got your sales team going head to head with marketing.
Classic.
You got sales and marketing going head to head with customer success, and no one's getting along. My shirt says relationships, because those are so critical, not just externally with our prospects and our clients, but sometimes even more importantly, internal within the organization. I think they said it back in the 80s, the 90s. Can't we all just get along? I don't want us to get along. I want us to really partner and truly be aligned with the problems that we're looking to solve. And once we have that buy-in, once we have everyone on the same page, in the words of the great philosopher, J.J. Walker, dynamite! Oh, it is unbelievable what organizations can accomplish with that alignment.
Mm-hmm.
So true.
Which comes back to what you said right at the beginning about teamwork, right? It's really hard to get teamwork if you don't have alignment.
Good stuff. Good connection there, Brendan, with the transition that we've seen since Larry and I were colleagues. It looks a lot different today than it did back then.
Yeah, and I think we're going to be hearing and talking a lot more about that, as we chat with more people, because a lot of these questions are being asked of people by others or by themselves is, like what has changed in the last 5 years? What has changed in the last 10 years? Because, you know, we all want to think, we all want to be focused on the future, but we can often learn from changes in the past, right, that are going to help us get there, because we have to know, first of all, what has changed. And you know, Larry, so the some of the four things that we talk about in almost every conversation we have is, and you, I mean, and you nailed it from the beginning. You know, it starts with people, and then it goes to process, and then it goes to data, which is, you know, the metrics or the KPIs, and then finally you have your tech stack or your tech systems that make it all go, you know, better and faster and more efficient. But, you know, we actually, you know, one of the great things we learned just last week was, you know, if you want to really be successful in a CRM implementation or implementation of any technology, make sure it works manually first, and then you'll be more successful in the implementation, and most importantly, the adoption of the technology. Because of course, the other thing that we've learned, and what's led to all this, I guess, progress and evolution that we've been talking about, the differences between 5 and 10 years ago, is we've realized collectively that adoption is how you measure the success of technology in this case. But because any company today that doesn't have technology in a space where their competitors have technology that's giving them an advantage, they're going to have a really tough time.
So true. So true.
Absolutely.
And I fashion it to legal cheating. Kind of like the Patriots did back in the day with Deflategate. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying with technology. And I love what you said, really resonates. It starts with the people. Right people in the right places. Process. Do you have a process that you follow? And is it flexible as we change? Because as we look into the future, 5 years from today, things will be drastically different. 5 months from today, things will be drastically different. Call me GPT. You talked about the data. Data is good, but it's even gooder to understand the data and then make decisions based off of what the data is telling you. And what I found is those people that consistently have success, that thrive even with chaos and turbulence, which in many markets we're facing right now. It's an election year. Who knows what's going on? There's a lot of chaos. I'm hearing it. We're going to hold off, Larry. We're going to hold off on hiring. We're going to hold off on moving forward with that technology. Hey, do you, boo-boo? But if I were you, I would use this time to accelerate. When everyone else is slowing down, it's the not Jimmy Buffett, I'm sorry.
Warren Buffett?
Warren Buffett, yeah. Brothers from a different mother. Close
Margaritaville, same thing.
Close enough. It's the Warren Buffett philosophy of doing what the opposite of what the market is doing. So I encourage organizations to explore what that looks like to thrive through the chaos, through the turbulence, from a people perspective, from a process, from a data, from your tech stack perspective. Right now is the time.
Right. When everybody, like as Brian Halligan, who's, you know, the co-founder of HubSpot, he always says, when everybody else zigs, you zag, you know, because if everyone continues, it's the same thing with the stock market. You know, you just talked about Warren Buffett. I mean, if everyone starts buying because they see everything going up, then that's when things are going to change, right? So this is what takes, again, the right people. It takes leadership to realize and have the processes and have the data that tell you, oh, actually, here's a leading indicator that maybe something needs to change, and what are we going to do about it? So it's that, again, you know, as you were saying earlier, like that continuous iteration. And of course, what I really liked what you said earlier about, you know, when you're growing a team, whether it's a unicorn or not, every time you add 1 or 2 or 3 people, something is going to change in the culture and the communication, and that has to be evaluated and then addressed and say, okay, well, as of tomorrow, we're going to do things a little differently because now we're X number of people more than we were last week. It's all, I mean, ultimately it comes down to being equipped to make decisions as fast as possible, right? Which is of course what we again talk about a lot, because when we're implementing a CRM, part of that conversation is always, again, back to the full C-suite, whether it's the CMO, the VP of sales, the CFO, the CEO, the COO, what they all need and want is a single source of truth, which means that their data or whatever reports that are important to their particular function or role is available in real time, and they can make a really quick decision, because today you have to be able to make quick decisions. Or why would you not want to make a quick decision today? Because we have all the tools to be able to do it. So, most leaders are going to want that if they can have it.
If you're not making quick decisions, you will be behind. If you're not behind now, you will be. And we see that. I see it more and more, where folks are wishy-washy. Folks are noodling.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some people listening right now that are noodling. My encouragement is on your mark, get set, go. As a leader, and you use the word leadership, leaders have to be courageous. And it doesn't mean that you're going to make the right decision every time. But I can tell you that by making the decision, you're going to learn. By not making a decision, Houston, we have a problem. And that's where I see organizations getting themselves in trouble, when they just rest on their laurels. Everything is awesome. Everything is great. Hey, ask Blockbuster how that went. Sorry, Blockbuster.
I know.
Yeah. As they say, you're
RIP.
Yeah. They're, as they say today, you're either winning or learning, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
You
got to be doing something.
In the 1900s, as my kids say, they used to say, you're either winning or losing. Today, we say, you're either winning or learning. And the other one, actually, that sprung to mind as you were chatting there, Larry, was we used to say, like 20 years ago, we used to say, grow or die. Now it's thrive or die. I mean, there's the space in between is getting a lot bigger, and it's almost like if you're not thriving, you're probably going the other way. Whereas before you could get away with just growing, incrementally, versus now you almost have to choose exponential growth, or I'm not quite sure what the alternative is going to be in the next 5 or 10 years.
A dinosaur go extinct, unfortunately. And I've seen it. We saw it through COVID, where unfortunately organizations went extinct, and that you can't plan for a global pandemic. But now that we've been through it, what's your plan B if something else happened? Plan C, plan D. What's your plan if we run into an event? And it takes that critical thinking, that forward thinking, which sounds good on paper. Oh yeah, we're forward thinking. No, you're not. I'm looking at your documentation and it just doesn't match up. I hear what you're saying, but your actions don't match up. They don't align. So it's interesting, and I'm excited to see what happens in really the next 18 months as we come out of this election year. What do we see with organizations that decided to invest, that decided, as you said, to thrive, versus those organizations that said, we're just going to be sitting back here chilling. They might be chilling themselves into a forced retirement, unfortunately.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so true.
Are there any stories from your speaking engagements where you've learned about some missteps of sales teams or sales leaders? Just, having a kind of an outsider's look now in your current role as Chief Energy Officer. What are some of the things that you're hearing from people today that are hiring you to kind of motivate their teams?
Yeah, well, it's funny you mention that, because motivation is my specialty. Inspiration is my specialty, but those come and go. Transformation is really what I key in on. And you made the comment, missteps, because generally when I work with an organization, I ask them, to let me interview some of their leaders as well as some of their frontline workers. And to a T, I hear this, that my leader says that he or she cares about me, but they don't really care about me. They're spreadsheet warriors. They're managing to the number. And it's an opportunity that's knocking to really build that relationship, to show our people that we care about them. I'll give you an example, and I share this with most leaders I speak to. I had 3 goals as a sales leader. Number 1, hit numbers. That's what keeps the lights on. We got to hit our numbers. That's why we're in sales.
Right.
Number 2, help my people learn and grow. If they're not better as a result of being on my team, shame on me. I haven't done my job. If they haven't gotten 1% better over time, 10% better over time, tangibly, both personally and professionally, I want you to do work in these 4 walls, but I also want you to do work from a career perspective, from a family perspective, from your goals outside of these 4 walls perspective. And I mean that. Number 3, have fun. If we're doing number 1 and number 2 at a high level, it's going to be a whole lot of fun. There's going to be a whole lot of smiles. There's going to be a whole lot of memories created. And Amy, if I recall correctly, we had some fun doing 1, 2, and 3 at a few organizations before. So that's what I'm trying to create. And that's what I'm hearing from folks is that, and I know it's tough. We're in a remote environment now. You got to get creative. I encourage our leaders to put your thinking cap on. Go ahead and get creative. Well, Larry, I'm not creative. Survey says, nah, you are creative. You just don't want to put in the work and put in the time to slow down in order to speed up on how can I engage with my team. I'll give everyone out there, I'll give you 2 examples. Number 1, have your team put together a business plan. They're going to ask you, well, what's the template? It's your business plan. I want you to think through your business plan professionally and personally. What's your vision? Where are you heading? How are you going to get there? What can I do to serve and support you? I want you to walk me through your business plan, and I'm going to make sure that I partner with you to show you that I'm your leader and I'm here to help you get to where you want to get to. Number 2, we talk about relationships. We know we're in the relationship business, but oftentimes we don't do anything about it. This is called the 3-minute challenge. It's something to do every single weekday, every weekday that ends in Y. Think about that. I want you to take 3 minutes and I want you to figure out who can you surprise and delight. Someone that you haven't been in touch with 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years. For those that are old enough, 3 decades. It only takes 3 minutes. Essentially, Amy, if you were my surprise and delight, I would probably find a funny GIF or meme from Office Space in a cubicle. You know exactly what story I'm talking about. I'm going to send it to you. I'm going to say, hey, Amy, hope you're having a wonderful week. I thought this might put a smile on your face. I'm not asking you for anything. I'm just giving you. I'm making a relationship deposit. So many times in life, we try to make withdrawals, but we're overdrafted. And we know this, but we don't do anything differently. See, I'm an overachiever. I do the 15-minute challenge every day. I reach out to 5 people, generally with a LinkedIn video message, audio message, or funny GIF. Just letting them know, Brendan, I know for you, I think that you have a heart for service around the Africa Classroom connection. I'm going to send you something that has the logo and just let you know, hey, I appreciate you more than you even know it. Your heart for serving the folks in Africa, the children, the education in Africa. Maya Angelou said it best. People will forget what you said. Talk is cheap. They'll even forget what you did. They'll never forget how you made them feel. So if we set out every day to make somebody, just one person, feel good, we're going to touch a lot of people. And it's kind of crazy. We don't do it for this, but we're going to be touched ourselves. That's been my example. That's been my experience, that the more I give, the more I serve without any expectation in return. It's just plentiful. It's bountiful. The blessings and good fortune that come my way. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Do you
That's
think
awesome.
so? That sounds amazing. Like my heart grew 3 sizes just listening to that. Do you think that some of these maybe younger sales reps or people that do feel this intense pressure to hit their quota are like, yeah, all that sounds nice, but how's it going to help me hit my number? And how do you coach somebody who's, struggling with those things of wanting the bigger purpose to feel good to them and make them smile and experience joy in their career, but also like be successful from the metric standpoint?
Yeah, I think it all comes down to your perspective and your mindset around it. If you trust the process, which I do, I realize that making impact is going to drive income. Now, I also say, and this, I'm not going to put it all on the youngsters. I'll say society in general. We have a microwave mindset. Boop, boop, boop. Give it to me in 22 seconds. Voila. Well, the best things in life, and I like to eat. I got a belly that proves I like to eat. The best things in life, you got to let it marinate. And not marinate, but marinate.
Marinate.
Yeah, you got to slow cook it. And sometimes we don't exhibit the patience that's needed, the consistency that's needed because I want it and I want it right now. And sometimes that's the leadership, that's the organization. I know we got to hit numbers and I'm greedy. I want it all. I want to hit my numbers, exceed my numbers, and I want to impact people. And I know I can do it if I stick to the process. That's the tough thing. That's the one that takes courage to stick to the process when everyone else is telling you, no, you big dummy, we got to lie. We got to beg, borrow, and steal to get the deal. No, that's going to hurt us in the long run. And we know this. So let's do it the right way. Let's make sure that we're looking out to solve problems. Let's make sure that we're looking out to understand what's going on. What's the pulse in the market so that we can better serve our clients and our prospects so that we can help the folks that we serve to be better. If we take care of those that we serve, I've yet to see. There's been one example, but if you consistently look to serve the people that are looking for you to serve them and help them and deliver for them, you're going to be A-okay. More times than not 100%, but more times than not. Whereas if you cut corners, you might not pay now, but somebody is going to pay later. Believe that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, if you can believe it, you're not the first person to talk about this microwave concept. So I feel you on that. I think that everybody's in a big hurry.
Yeah.
So it can be easy to want to take the shortcuts.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, like even just, for me personally, I'm more of a slow cooker myself. And I always, for the longest time until pretty recently, I've seen that as a disadvantage that I take time to think about things and what have you. And I always felt like the microwave or popcorn people around me were going to get ahead fast.
They had it figured out.
Well, they're going to get ahead faster because they always have an answer faster and, what have you. But I'm starting to realize that there's a lot of value in slowing down and making sure you're doing things the right way for the right reasons. But I think the other, I mean, there's a myriad of quotes around this, but it's just about make sure you keep putting one foot in front of the other, keep that momentum going. Never stop. But again, it comes back to the great proverb you started with, which was, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you have to slow down to bring the team with you.
Slow down to speed up. You nailed it, BD. I love it. And I love what y'all are doing to serve the greater community with the RevOps Champion podcast, because we all want to be champions. And for those out there that are tuning in, my encouragement, I love working with folks that have a growth mindset. Those folks that are looking, instead of being stagnant, they're looking to grow. And I love even more those that have a growth mindset and an action mindset. they're willing to take that action. I'm the king of notes. I've got so many notebooks, and I take voracious notes. And working with a coach, I invested in coaching, which I highly recommend. What I've learned is notes are good, and I put a little star in circuit. That's what I'm going to take action on. So when I take notes, there's got to be one action item that I'm committed to taking, or what happens is kind of like those, what do they call them, New Year's revolutions that blow up. January 17th, I think, is that day that most people's New Year's resolutions are broken up. It's the same thing. So this knowledge that Amy and Brendan and hopefully myself we're giving, my encouragement is that you take it and do something with it. Take this seed, nurture it, give it water, give it sunlight, roll up your sleeves, put down that funky fertilizer, and let's make something great grow out of it.
Yeah.
Totally.
Love that. Amy, did you have anything else for Larry that we wanted to make sure we covered while we have him?
Not I've hit all the things on my checklist. I mean, we can throw some curveballs at him, see if we get some good stories or sound bites. But we touched on the stuff that I wanted to get to today.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm going to just ask one, because Larry, you kind of just sort of introduced the idea of like sharing, what can we share today with the folks that are, listening or watching, a takeaway. So like, but instead of, I'm going to ask you and give you another opportunity to give everybody a word of advice or a tip. Like, what is one thing that you'd like to share with everybody that they could potentially put into action today or tomorrow that'll make their lives or their work better and easier?
Yeah, this is one, in addition to the 3-minute challenge of serving others. I don't drink coffee, but here in my hotel room in San Francisco, there's a coffee maker. I can't pour coffee into your cup if my cup isn't full and if my cup isn't overflowing. So my encouragement to folks, make sure your cup is overflowing. Now, what does that mean? It's something different for everyone. But I look at it from a form, just to make it easy, 8 buckets. The faith bucket, spirituality, whatever you believe or don't believe. The family bucket. Oh, goodness. It gets me a smile on my face as I think about my family. The friends bucket. Yeah, those connections, those friendly connections. The fitness bucket. Yeah, your health is your wealth. Getting good sleep. Are you eating your fruits and vegetables? Are you drinking your 8s to the O? Your finances perspective. Yes. Hey, must be the money. It's not all about the money, but the money certainly allows you to do some things. Your philanthropy, which I know doesn't start with an F, but I spell phonetically and frenetically. Sue me. That bucket. What are you doing in your community to serve those around you? And then your career bucket. What are you doing to take your career to that next level? When you look at those buckets, I encourage people to prioritize. What's number 1? Number 2, all the way down to number 8. Yeah, it's going to cause some introspection. It's going to cause you to think about, what are my priorities? And then I'm going to challenge you to look at your calendar. Show me your calendar. I can tell you what's important to you. I mean, Brendan, I can tell that you're investing time serving on the board for the Africa Classroom Connection. That tells me that that's important to you. That service is important to Amy. We had a conversation when your child was sick. That shows me that you care about your family. You're not just talking about it, but you had your kids speaking to me, which I love. That brought that warmed my heart. Now, after you prioritize, I want you to give yourself a grade. How are you doing? A, B, C, D, remedial, and keep it real. And then from there, where can you up level? And I encourage people to look at your top 3 priorities. We don't want to be like the buffet and look at all 8. That's the buffet does a whole lot of things, but mostly mediocre. I'm not trying to call out anyone, but the Golden Corral, I'm not going there if I want some good Italian food. I'm going to an Italian restaurant. So how can we be specialists in our top 3 priorities? And what can we do? The key word there is do, to take our respective grade to that next level. If I'm a C, how can I be a B? If I'm a B, what can I do to be an A? And I also challenge you to challenge yourself to ask the question, am I committed to being the best that I can be in this priority bucket? If not, why is it a priority? So that would be my give. And I encourage folks to step into your greatness. A lot of times I speak with folks, and I just picked up a new client, executive director of a radiology practice. And this gentleman is brilliant, but doesn't believe in himself. All of his colleagues share it. I saw it from meeting with him 2 times, his brilliance, but he doesn't. He's writing a different story in his heart, in his mind. And I'm going to be working with him as his coach for him to truly believe in that brilliance and that greatness. So for folks that are listening in, I give you permission to believe in your brilliance and in your greatness. And my encouragement is for you to go out there and be brilliant. Let it shine. Because I hate to get morbid, life is short. It really is. I think the millennials call it YOLO. I said, hold on, what did you call me? They said, no, Larry, you only live once. So I encourage folks, live every day to the fullest. Carpe diem. And I'm not even a Latin scholar. I met a guy who had tattooed Carpe diem, Carpe noctem. I said, I'm a little bit too old to be seizing the night, but I love to Carpe diem. So that would be my final word. That would be my mic drop moment for y'all.
Amazing.
That's awesome.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I think that's the perfect note to end on. I feel great.
Yeah.
I feel inspired.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Larry. It was awesome to meet you and spend some time with you. I've got
always a blast catching up with you, Larry.
Thank you so much, Brandon. Thank you so much, Amy. It was my honor, privilege, and pleasure to be here on the RevOps Champions podcast.
Thank you so much for joining.
Yeah. Did you enjoy this episode?
Find more at RevOpsChampions.com.